Hello, Safe Harbor Yogis. I'm so glad to be back with you this week. Today we're going to do a very much chair-based practice involving a little bit of meditation, and we're going to focus in on the theory and the act of kindness today. So we have Jasper joining us as well for you, those of you who may not have practiced with me before. So I apologize if you hear some scuffling in the background from my pup, but let's get started here. So I understand we will have some people in chairs, some people on mats. So again, quick tutorial just so we know where we're going with all of this. Anytime we're wanting to be in a relaxed position, where I let you know that you can just come into a relaxed state or resting state, that means, again, if you're sitting in a chair, your back is against the chair. Your feet are on the ground. They're about hip width distance. Okay. Beyond that, whenever we're trying to do extra stretches, I'd like you to please, if you can, use your posture. So that means sitting very safely forward on our chairs, not to the point of tipping by any means, but give yourself this little bit of space in between the back of the chair and your back. And again, sitting nice and tall, feet are underneath of our knees here. Okay. So from there, again, we'll be able to kind of move a little bit, and I will cue to those of you who are on the ground as well. So to get ourselves started here, because the most important part of a practice, at least in my mind, is kind of setting the intention for the class. So I want to make sure that we are setting this intention and making ourselves kind of keep our own word, our promise to ourselves after the class is even over. So what I'd like you to do, please, if you are on the ground on a mat, please feel free to lay down or you can sit in a comfortable position. Those of you in chairs, back could be against the chair. Rest your hands wherever they are comfortable and let your feet both touch the ground. All right. So from here, let's close the eyes or bring our gaze down toward the ground. And we're just going to take 3 deep breaths together, however you would like them. If it's in through the nose, out through the mouth, or vice versa, or just through the nose or just through the mouth, whatever you would prefer. Just however you think you could get the deepest breath you can, go ahead and do that. So let's take that inhale in together first. Exhale it out. Inhale and exhale. One last time. Inhale, fill your chest, fill the belly. Exhale, let it all out. And now keeping our gaze down at the floor or closing our eyes. Just settle into the room that you're in, into the seat or the mat that's supporting you. And just knowing that any of those racing thoughts, what they like to call the monkey mind in yoga and meditation, whereas if you think about an old toy monkey that has cymbals clapping constantly, thinking that that's our brain, that's where our thoughts are most of the time, is in this monkey mind where it's just frantic and something is trying to distract us from just enjoying the moment we're in. We're constantly being pushed into the future, pushed back into the past. Allow yourself to just be here now. So we don't have any other responsibilities for these next 40 or so moments together. There's nothing that you need to worry about. There's nothing you need to do. There's nothing that you need to think about at this point. You don't have to think about lunch later. Don't have to think about your day yesterday. Just simply being here now. So pay attention in the room. Just as your eyes are closed and your body is still, take notice to any sensations you're feeling while you are still, which again is something we don't pay attention to very often because our society is such a rushed society. So allow yourself to just feel what your body feels like while being still. Is there any tingling? Do you feel air blowing? Is the air that you're breathing in cold or warm? Any sensations. Nothing to distract us, but just something to anchor us into this moment. Maybe you hear birds. I know I do right now myself. So just really giving yourself a moment, maybe even letting a little smile come across your face, that you know that you're doing something good to help yourself, help those around you, and also to just kind of be the biggest version, the best version of yourself by just simply being instead of forcing and doing. So as promised, I wanted to speak a little bit about kindness. Now, this can act in several different ways. So kindness, it means that you are being kind to others, of course, which is really what we think about the most when that happens is, hey, hold a door open, say please, say thank you. But kindness in general, it comes to the self as well. So you have to be kind to yourself on your journey. Everyone who I meet, no matter what environment, all has a way of kind of beating up on themselves about anything. Again, that you may have not liked the way you walked across a room for something, or you don't like the way that something happened, and then you're kicking yourself and saying, "Ooh, I should have done this differently," or "Ooh, I'm not happy with what my body looks like," or anything that our minds just churn out and generate. We can stop those thoughts. We don't have to be so hard on ourselves. So I want this to kind of be a dual thing, that we're meaning about kindness in the sense of being kind to others and spreading kindness and joy out there into the universe, into those around you, but also to be kind to yourself. So there's this very good thing that I have. If any of you do have email, it's wonderful. It's a free service called the Daily Om, and that's DAILY, and then Om, like you hear very stereotypically in yoga, where someone says Om. That is what that is. So OM is the end of that. So you're more than welcome if you'd like a little bit of insight outside of class as well. I find these to be very enjoyable. But this one was all about kindness, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll share that with you here quickly. So it starts by saying, kindness expands the light within us and reaches out to touch the light in others as well. Kindness is the ideal that is easily acceptable to all of us. We all know that a small kindness can make our journeys lighter and more enjoyable. Even bringing an instance of kindness to mind can put a smile on the face for days or weeks later, or perhaps to even inspire you to share kindness with another. Though it may seem simple to the point of insignificance, many cultures throughout the world and history have recognized kindness as a powerful virtue. It may be the simplest way to experience and share all of the grandest ideals of humanity. We can make the choice to act from the best place within ourselves at any time, while simultaneously recognizing the highest potential in another with the smallest of acts, nourishing the seed of hope in each soul we encounter. In a way, kindness acts as the oil that makes the engine of the world move more smoothly and with less friction. We can still get where we are going, but the ride is more pleasant, and those around us can share in the ideal world that we help to create. We are all fortunate that kindness is limitless in its supply and available to everyone. When we act in ways that confirm our ideals, we make the ideal our reality. Then, instead of affirming the experience of struggle and competition, we can shift our experience to the reality of ease and pleasurable camaraderie, with the fellow citizens of the world. And this last little part of what they had shared, and even just to throw a little bit of what I believe into it that I feel is a really good example, is, again, say someone cuts in front of you in the line at a store. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Of course, in that moment, you want to lash out. You want to be, uh, you want to be angry. That's what you want to automatically do in your own mind, is to curse at or yell at that person who has no idea in most cases that they're even affecting your day. They're in their own vehicle, in their own little world. So just even thinking for that moment when that anger starts to arise, or those feelings of just unpleasantness come up, is just to replace that with, I wish this person well. There could have been anything going on in that person's life. All of us have a weird journey that we're on, and none of us really know the whole gambit of what other people are doing and thinking. So the smallest gesture can bring a smile to light the shadow of unpleasant situations and remove tension from the difficult task. But its effects can echo and extend far beyond the moment. We can be sure that we will receive a kindness in return, but giving is its own reward. So kindness expands the light within us and reaches out to touch the light in others as well, giving us all a glimpse of the glow that is the power to enlighten our world. So again, setting that intention, I would like you to think of one thing, one kind thing that you've done in the past, let's say, month. Think of one kind thing. It could be something as small, again, as holding a door open for someone, saying hello, smiling. Anything that you know could have brought even the slightest moment of joy to someone. I want you to harness that little memory. So bring that to the forefront of your mind. I'll give you a moment to do so. And once you have that little moment, and not even having to dig too far, just thinking of something, I would like you to also dually think about something kind you can do for someone else today. So whatever that small gesture is, pre-plan it, think about it for a moment, and let that be the fuel of our little practice today. So, staying in the same relaxed position in our chairs, nice and still. If your eyes are closed, slowly blink them open. Move your fingers and toes. Move your wrists. Pick up one foot then the other and move your ankles. And then give your arms a big stretch up toward the sky. Spin your palms to almost face behind you. That opens up our chest, opens up our shoulders. And give yourself a big stretch up toward the sky here. Or if you're laying down, back toward the back of the room. And then go ahead and just let those arms fall by your sides. Let them hang for a moment. We're going to work a little bit with the shoulders here first. So if you are laying down, feel free to go to a seated position, whatever that may look like for you on your mat. Those of you in your chairs, scoot yourself forward just those couple safe inches away from the back of your chair. And keep your feet planted. So as you can see, my feet are at that, or my knees rather, are at that 90-degree angle where my ankles are underneath. So that's where we want to be here, about hip width distance. All right, so now to move the shoulders, we're going to do some circles in one direction then the other with both shoulders, and then we're going to kind of move them differently, almost getting some action happening. So firstly here, let's go ahead and roll our shoulders back onto our back. So bring them up to your ears, let them go all the way back, maybe even letting your elbows poke backward a little, coming all the way back to the front. Do 2 more of these in your own time. They could be slow or fast. And once you get through that third one, go the opposite direction with both shoulders. And then meet back at stillness. We're going to shrug our shoulders up toward our ears, but we're going to let our breath do some of the work here. So as we inhale and create this tension, on our exhale, we're going to drop all that tension. So you could do this again in through the nose or out through the nose or whatever you prefer. My preference normally is in through the nose and out through the mouth because I feel like I can sigh a lot more of that energy out of there and kind of get away some strife. So what we're going to do is we're going to inhale and build tension. Bring those shoulders up toward your ears, scrunch them up, make your hands and arms kind of tense. Take that inhale again if you need a little more. And then exhale, drop your arms, drop your shoulders. Make it almost a little bit of a harsh motion. 2 more of those. Inhale, shoulders come up, create that tension, maybe bend the arms, create fists. On your exhale, drop them down, throw those arms down to your sides. Let your arms hang, maybe sway. And doing one last one. Inhale, bring those shoulders up. Exhale, drop them down. And now moving oppositely. So we're going to kind of get a little bit of a dance groove going here, just a little bit. So we're going to move one shoulder forward, one shoulder back. So you can kind of use your arms at the same time. Make those elbows go out like chicken wings. Make a few in the first direction, bring the elbows forward, and then let the elbows go back. So go the opposite way. Move those shoulders out, maybe even getting into the torso or below the ribs a little bit here in that movement as we kind of twist. So once you feel like you've twisted it out, you've moved those arms enough, come back to stillness, please. And from here, we're going to stretch out our sides a little bit. So you have the option of using the arm on your chair if you have that. Otherwise, again, as my chair does not really have arms on it, again, I just let one arm drop down. So first, we're going to start by bringing our arms big out to the side. So bring your arms out by your sides, bring them up to a T, let your palms open up toward the sky, and then bring your palms to touch above your head. From here, go ahead and separate those hands. Spin your palms backward once again so your pinkies are coming in toward one another in the middle. Drop the left arm down toward your left side. We're going to go ahead and stretch over toward the left. So go ahead and reach that right hand over top of your head and drop that left arm heavy. Your gaze might come up over top of that arm or up toward the ceiling. But really try to send that breath into that right side of our body that's getting this stretch. Next, inhale, bring both arms back up to the sky. Drop the right arm down and stretch over toward the right. So again, pinky is spinning down toward the ground. Our palm is facing slightly behind us. And feel that same stretch here. Now, just make a little mental note too if you feel a difference from side to side, because that changes daily. So knowing just that you have to send a little extra love to that other side is a good thing. On your next exhale, release that stretch. Once again, shimmy out those shoulders, move them a little bit. And opening up the chest, since we're kind of staying in that shoulder and chest area right now, bring your arms out like a goalpost here. So we're bringing our palms facing forward, arms are bent. We're going to go ahead and almost like we're using a weight machine here with our shoulders that would work us out a little bit at a gym. We're going to do that just with the air, so that maybe some of you can relate to that here. But what our goal is to open up our back as we open our chest too. So take an inhale for me. Exhale, close those arms in toward one another. Let the elbows and the hands touch. Inhale, broaden those arms. Bring your shoulder blades really close together behind you, almost like you're trying to pinch a pencil in between. All right, next exhale, bring those arms closed. Inhale, out and open. Exhale, close. Inhale, out and open. Once again, drop that left arm down to your side. Right arm reaches up high. Stretch through the right side body for just a breath. Bring that left arm up, swap them out. Stretch over to the right. Bring both arms down to hang. Go ahead and place your hands on your lap this time. So if you're in a seated position, that's perfectly fine, on the ground or in a chair. I'm going to turn sideways just so you're able to see this movement a little bit more in detail. So what we're going to do here is you can place hands on knees if you prefer. You can place the hands on your hips, whichever feels most organic to you. Feel free to do that. But we're going to round and arch the spine. So those of you who've taken class with me before will be familiar with this. This is called cat and cow pose. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a big deep inhale, fill the belly and the chest as much as you can with air. And on our next exhale, round out the spine. So we're going to bring our chin down to our chest, drop our head heavy, round out the spine almost by pulling our belly button in toward the back of our spine here. Make yourself into this little ball and create as much space underneath of you as you can. On our inhale, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to puff our chest out. We're going to let our shoulders come back onto our backs, just like we did before, and bring our gaze up toward the sky, coming into a little mini back bend. Exhale, belly button comes into the spine, round it out, chin to chest. Maybe even use those fingertips on your knees as leverage. Inhale, and go ahead and puff the belly out, puff the chest out, and do so that way. One more time. Let's round out the spine, chin to chest, round it out. And then on our inhale, puff out the belly. Bring yourself back and find that back bend. Come back into neutral. And what we're going to do here, for those of you who are on the ground, we're going to come into a version of what's called figure 4 pose, because it does look like a number 4 ultimately. So from where we're at, if you're in your chair, you can stay seated away from the back of the chair in a safe manner. Those of you who are on the mat, if you could please lay down and bring your soles of the feet to the ground with your knees bent, that would be excellent. So what we're going to do in all shapes and forms, we're going to go ahead and cross our left ankle over our right knee. So left ankle over right knee. Let me just make sure my phone is still recording here. I apologize. Okay, perfect. So where we're going here, we're going to again cross that left ankle over our right knee. Now, the lower down this knee is toward the ground, the more intense it's going to be. So you can feel free to gauge that and even use that left hand to almost hold that leg up if you need to, so it doesn't become too stressful on that hip. So find that version of this pose though, and we are going to flex our foot. So again, if you've taken class with me before, this may sound familiar. Again, flexing our foot is when we're trying to almost make our foot flat and to stand on the wall to the side of us. And opposite is pointing your toes. So pointing would literally mean you're pointing them somewhere. So we're going to keep our foot flexed like we're standing on the wall to the side of us. We're going to sit nice and tall here. Take some deep breaths into that hip where we hold so much tension. Just letting that go, letting any stored emotions go. And as you're letting go of those stored emotions or whatever may be hindering you or may be in that hip on this particular side, just knowing that, again, we are thinking about kindness. So let any of that bad juju, that bad energy, go out the door. Bring in those thoughts of kindness toward yourself and what you would like to be able to do to help others and share that kindness. From where we are, let's go ahead and uncross that left ankle, bring it down. Same thing opposite side. So cross the right ankle over the left knee here, please. And flexing those toes on that foot. Letting it open up as much as you would like by either bringing that hand underneath to kind of cradle it or to simply just let the knee hang and do what it can do on its own. So using your own discretion. But again, taking about 2 or 3 big breaths here. When you feel ready, slowly release that foot. And from those of you who are on the ground, you can feel free to sit back up again. We're going to extend our legs out in front of us. So coming into what's called staff pose. As we're on our chairs, you have a few options to play with here. You can stay seated just as you are with your back away from the chair and just simply extend legs out in front of you like this. Or if you feel that you have that safety and stability in your chair and you're able to scoot ahead just a tiny bit, enough to let basically the Daisy Duke version of your shorts off of the chair here just a little bit, you're able to do so, and that allows you to extend your legs out a little bit longer. But again, that is the lesser safe version. So please, again, Sarah, also, if you're watching, again, use your discretion. But we're going to kind of fold over top of these legs. So the version that I'm going to show that I normally prefer is extending the legs out one at a time into the air, just because it gives a little bit more safety when we are in a chair. So those of you on the ground, you can simply, again, if you're in your seat, sitting straight up, kind of in this L shape that you would be with your torso and legs, that would be excellent. And you can just simply bring the sole of the foot that we're not extending into that inner thigh on that side. So first we're going to extend that left leg long in front of us. So spinning this way just so you can see me here. So I'm going to extend this out. And as soon as you do that, you're going to feel the weight of that leg, almost like, oh, I want to put that down. That's a little bit of muscle movement. But we're going to use our best discretion here. And again, keep that leg up. You can also use your hands as a support. So you can interlace those fingers around the back of that knee or the back of that thigh and give it a little help. Try to keep your shoulders on your back instead of caving yourself in if you can, please. And once again, we're going to flex those toes back toward our face on our left foot. So again, giving us this hamstring stretch. One more big breath in. Exhale and release that leg. Same thing, opposite side here. Take an inhale, lift that right leg up in front of us. Flex those toes like you're standing on the wall. And again, using your own discretion, whatever is in your body. So if you would prefer to have that stability underneath and interlace fingers around the back of that thigh, that is perfectly fine. Try not to crouch down too much. Try to keep your posture and keeping that leg raised. Very good. Take a couple breaths. When you feel ready on your next inhale, or exhale rather, go ahead and release that foot down and unlock those fingers. Excellent. So for the last maybe 10-ish moments or so that we'll have here in class, what I would like to do is bring ourselves into a standing position. Okay, so those of you who are in chairs, this is not going to be anything crazy. You will be able to use your chair for support as well. Those of you who are on mats, if you want to find a wall or a chair to lean against, you're more than welcome to do so, or again, use your own posture. So you can always have one just there in case. But we're going to do some standing stuff. So let's go ahead and, oh, sorry about that. My dog just slid a little bit down our steps. I apologize. So from here, we're going to stand up and we're going to come into a few stretches here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to bring our chair, if you're using the chair, out in front of us here. I'd like you to use the seat part of the chair. So what we're going to do is we're going to look down at our feet. Make sure they're good and planted. So taking a look at them, and making sure that you have that good foundation built. Now, our feet are right underneath of our hips, right underneath our ankles. So not putting any stress anywhere. First things first, we're going to lift our toes, wiggle them up a little bit, but keep the rest of your feet planted. From here, we're going to do a forward fold, but instead of just letting ourselves hang in the outer space, we're going to use this chair. Or you could use a wall if you don't have that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simply hinge from the waist. So if you can bring your fingers, so that L-shaped fingers, bring that right to where your bend is at your hip crease. So right where you know when you're bending forward, where that fold kind of comes in. So we're going to come into an L shape with our body first. So take an inhale. On our exhale, go ahead and lean yourself forward, come into that L shape. Once you're there, bring one hand down and then the other, again, being cognizant of those wheels on our chair to not put too much pressure into the chair to move it. But then once we're here, I want us to release into this stretch. So if you're able, let your head hang heavy. Go ahead and just let the top of your head pull down toward the earth. Use those hands there as stability. Try not to let yourself go back too far on your hips to lean. You want to still keep that L shape. So feel like your tailbone is directly over your ankles and not leaning back too far. If you feel like this is enough of a stretch, stay right here. Otherwise, you have the option of bringing the hands off of that chair and just bending a little bend in the knees, or you may put a bend in the knees even if your hands are on the chair, and simply let the head hang heavy. So from here, you can let the arms kind of relax. You can kind of sway back and forth. But getting this benefit of having our head slightly below our heart just to get our blood flow moving in that opposite direction. So find whichever version of this particular pose feels best for you, and knowing that any version of it is totally perfect. Again, there's not any wrong way to really do this unless you're trying to injure yourself. That's the only exception. So from here, if you do have hands on the ground, you can feel free to walk them back up to the chair if you had a chair there to begin with, and then stand up. Otherwise, do so slowly for me, please, just to make sure that rush of blood doesn't kind of hinder you in any way. So very good. So once we're standing, feel free to pedal out the feet, make any movements you may need. And I'm just checking my time on here. We are great. Alrighty, and still staying standing here, I would like for us to do what's called tree pose, which is something that I like to incorporate into each class in some way, shape, or form, just because it is a really beautiful pose to be in. So what we're going to ultimately end up doing is simply coming into a standing posture for balance, okay? So we're going to use our right foot as our standing foot first. You can feel free to have that chair nearby if you just need something to lean against. Again, I have wheels, be safe. So what we're going to do here in this case, and if you want to start by not holding on to that chair, you can feel free. But right foot's going to be our standing foot. So we're going to bring a little weight off of that left foot first. So come and just bring those toes to tap on that left foot. Now you have a few different options for this. You can keep your foot almost as it is, just spinning that heel in a little bit and bringing that knee out to the side. And you can see I don't want to pop into this hip, okay? So we want to keep our right hip over top of that ankle as much as we can. So this is our little kickstand version. You're more than welcome to stay there and put a little bend in this right knee. Also, you have the option of bringing it into your inner thigh. So depending on how you would like to structure this, we're equally pushing from our thigh into our foot as we are our foot into our thigh. So again, trying not to bow this hip out over toward the right. So again, you can see I'm using this chair as just a little helper. That's perfectly fine. If you feel daring, feel free to bring those arms off and again, as you do so, if you want to give that a shot, you can find something in front of you. So in yoga, it's called your drishti, which is just the fancy word for your focal or focus point. So looking ahead of you at something that's not moving. So finding that gaze, that concentration, to be able to stand tall here. So you can just use the chair. You can bring your hands down to heart center here and bring your palms to touch. That's an option. Or you can bring arms way over top of your head here. So finding your version of your tree, holding it for just 2 more breaths, feeling that rooting from that foot into the ground, almost like you are the tree. Now, without slingshotting that foot, you're more than welcome to use a hand, bring it down from wherever it is, and roll out that right ankle. Give it some love. Same thing, opposite side. Feel free to move that chair to the other side of you if you would like that stability, or if you would like to use your wall. Again, just changing directions. Again, it will be the same version of what I said before, so it shouldn't be anything too new. So we're going to use our left foot as our standing foot this time. So off weight, some weight here from that right foot. Come either into that little tap, that little kickstand version, and bringing that knee out to the side while opening up that hip. Or like I said before, you can also use a hand, bring it into that inner thigh. Perfect. And try not to bow too much into that left hip. You have the chair option here, keeping your hand there. You can bring hands to heart center. You can bring them up and branch up nice and tall. So you have those options. Play around with any of those, knowing that if you fall out of the tree, you're fine. You are totally okay. Again, it just means your foot's coming down. Again, you can always pick it back up and bring it back into the pose. So taking 1 more breath here. Slowly release that foot from wherever it is, please. And we're going to come back to our seat. So coming back to our mat, coming back to our chair, wherever we are at here. We're going to simply bring our feet again to the ground if you are seated. If you're on your mat, you can feel free to lay down here a little bit too, or you can stay seated because you're going to have to move a little bit regardless. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come into a little bit more of a forward fold, which is in mat yoga called child's pose, but we're going to do a different version of this here today. So those of you who are on the ground, you can sit up and bring your knees just up into the air, that you're basically that you have your knees bent and your feet on the ground. So again, seated upward though. So seated, feet on the ground, knees bent, and spine straight. So what you can do then if you're on the ground is you can simply lean yourself forward towards those legs. You can hug onto those legs. And we're going to do something very similar in a chair. So what we're going to do when we're in the chair is we're going to sit nice and tall, and we're going to hinge from our waist just like we did before in that forward fold that we did. So we're just going to simply hinge ourselves down. Whenever you hit that point and you say, nope, I'm not going any further, stay there. You can use the hands to stop yourself from going any further down, or if you would wish to go a little bit further into it, you can even use those hands as a guide and still go down a little bit more and stop yourself. So find that place. If you want to go all the way down, feel free to do so. And you also have the option of bringing the knees a little bit wider and letting your torso and your head drop in between the legs. So finding whichever version of this pose that you feel is in your own body. And just let yourself hang out for a second. Give yourself a moment. Come back to that intention of kindness. Kindness to yourself, kindness to others. 2 more breaths. Let's inhale and bring ourselves back up to a seated position here. So coming back to that seat. We're going to go ahead and close our eyes one last time. Sit back to the back of your chair if you're in your seat. Lay down on your mat if you're on the ground. And lay however you feel is comfortable. But if you're in your chair itself, feel free to just bring the knees over top of the ankles, about hip width distance. Close your eyes or bring your gaze low down to the floor. We're going to take one more breath just to come back into this meditative state. So take an inhale here and exhale. Let yourself relax. Let yourself catch your breath. No longer controlling it. No longer doing anything special. But just simply acknowledging that our bodies are breathing. They're doing it for us. It's amazing. So allowing ourselves to have that breath, maybe even bringing a hand to our ribs or to our chest, and maybe one over our heart here a little bit higher. Connect that heartbeat with that breath, knowing that those two things will keep going as long as we are in this body. So from here, finding that connection, slowing our world down a little bit, and really going inward. And just for these last few minutes together here, what I would suggest is to let your mind be free. So just like I had said about that monkey mind in the beginning of our class today, letting that monkey mind quiet down. I like to either picture clouds in the sky and those words or thoughts just bubbling up and going up into the clouds and watching them float away. Or picturing a highway. You're driving along, there's no traffic. You're just driving and going at your own speed. And letting any of those racing thoughts race off onto an exit from that highway. Know that they can come back to you again later if they are something you do need to contemplate, but again, just knowing that you don't need that right now. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is sit. So give it a shot for just a moment. Humor me. And let those thoughts take that detour or find that cloud. Trying to let any outside distractions also float up into that cloud or off that exit. And giving yourself this safe space where you're at in the room, in your own body. And doing a quick mental check of where our body is in outer space here. Scanning all the way from our toes, all the way up to the top of our head. Answering in your own mind and letting yourself release tension where need be. So scanning up through the legs, making sure you're not holding on to anything too tightly. Paying attention to the torso, that you're not leaning or doing any extra work. Paying attention to the shoulders, making sure they're not creeping up toward our ears, letting them fall back onto our backs. And still feel that pull of the crown of your head up toward the ceiling, that we're still sitting nice and tall. But also, pay attention to the face. Are you clenching your jaw? Are you closing your eyes too tightly? Grinding your teeth? Any of those things, let them go. Maybe even letting the jaw drop open a tiny bit here. And just allow yourself to be, just to breathe, be here in this moment without any stress, any worry. And just showing yourself that kindness that's inside, allowing that to be your catalyst, your way to be able to know that you have this inside of you and you can be kind to yourself, be kind to those